The next builder on the list is Don Stoddart. Don's unrivaled commitment to the advancement of female hockey has dramatically and successfully aided the sport and innumerable athletes. While presiding over one of the largest female hockey organizations, the Brampton Canadettes, he created opportunities for all age groups and the abilities from house league to the most elite across North America. His accomplishments include an awards banquet and scholarship fund that was created for young athletes to pursue their education, a Two Nations college prep series that hosts 100 top female teams from across North America to showcase their talent while competing for Canadian and U.S. university scholarships, a fund that has raised over $1 million, being a finalist in Craft Hockeyville for Volunteer of the Year. It's with great pride that Springwater Sports Heritage inducts Don Stoddart into the Springwater Sports Heritage Hall of Fame. The presentation of the award and inductee pin will be made by his friend, nominator, and about to be a Springwater Sports Heritage inductee, Trish Campbell. Would Trish and Don proceed onto the stage?
Thanks, Dan. It's a bit of a family affair here tonight for the Downeys and Robertsons because I have 3 uncles going in and a couple of cousins. So that's kind of fun for us, and the reason I mention that is because Don is pretty much like family. So I consider that Don to be a very good friend and also an extremely deserving builder inductee for the Springwater Sports Hall of Fame. Don spent countless hours and wore out so many vehicles you can't even imagine. Coaching, presiding, organizing, innovating, fundraising, and founding opportunities, all the while guiding and empowering a positive environment where female hockey players of all ages and abilities could flourish and succeed both on and off the ice. In the words of Ted Dean, who's here, Ted was a past president of the 500-member Barrie Sharks organization. This is a quote: "Don is the very definition of a builder, working tirelessly behind the scenes, helping other people achieve their goals and dreams." Don, you're a difference maker to the sport, and we're pleased tonight to recognize your many achievements with your induction in the builder category.
It's really a special honor, and it really takes you back when you get the phone call that people recognize what you've done. You don't do it to be recognized, so it really has an emotional effect. So I'd like to thank all the committee, certainly Trish, everybody here this evening, the sponsors. It wouldn't happen without you guys, so I do appreciate it. Thank you. What I'd like to do is take you on a little bit of a story, if I could, to tell you how I got here today. I'll try and do it as quickly as I can, and I do know that I'll be at least 1/4 of the time of what Joanna McGinnis is going to be. It's truly an honor to stand here in front of everybody this evening. You don't get to this point without the loving support of your family and friends. Growing up in a small town has a profound effect on the people, and you don't really realize that until you get old. Learning how to volunteer has changed my life. Donating time back to the community just comes naturally to me. Simply now, well put, in our Stoddart household, it is and always been a way of life. I'd like to share you with a quick rundown of some of the things I recall growing up in our family home, which has led me to where I am today. I am sure this is not 100% accurate, but it is truly what I recall as a child. So please forgive me if there's any errors in my memory, as I'm sure there is. My first childhood memory was before moving to Orlake in 1964. My father, Bill, was active in the Oakville community. That started and maintained an outdoor hockey arena close to our home. Many hours were spent getting it ready for all of to enjoy. Shortly after moving to Orlake, Mom and Dad both became members and active in the Orlake Ratepayers Associations. Patrolling the dam and running the Orlake Regatta was one of their major accomplishments. For a young person growing up in Orlake, the regatta was like going to the Olympics. The trophies and the medals were absolutely huge. Swimming, rowing, canoeing, jousting, nail driving, shoe kicking, egg tossing, they had it all. It was an amazing activity and something I'm sure everybody who grew up at Orr Lake will never forget. As time marched on, I followed in my parents' footsteps and helped run the regatta for a few years before heading off to school. My next fond memory is again that of my dad starting up a baseball team for my sister Landon to play on. Others involved were Shirley Furlong, Jean Columbus, and my mom Shirley. I was frequently called upon to hit fly balls to the outfielders. The team was sponsored by most teams in town by the Elmville Lions Club, and players from this team went on to become Elmville Angels. In fact, a few players from the first team are in the room this evening. I know I recognize a couple of them. Sticking with the theme of baseball, my mom and Joan Player, I believe, started up the Elmville Junior Cubs program where Lana and Debbie Gillespie, a good friend, helped coach these young players and teach them how to play. Hanging around with my father as a youngster really kept me busy. Most dad's activities were tied into the Lions Club. I believe he was the president and district governor at one point. I recall he was involved with bringing roller skating to Elmville. Along with myself, many others would spend countless hours booting around the arena. I was very proud to go to the arena, and I always wore my white pants, my orange top, and my seashell necklace. I really thought it was cool. After that came the tennis courts, I think the lights of the ballpark, and a host of other things tied back to our community. One summer I recall Dad and Larry Simpson decided that Elmville needed a lacrosse team, so they together started up an association, I believe. They had two teams, a junior and a senior team. I'm not sure how long it actually lasted, but I do know that I played on the junior team. Once summer was over and winter arrived, it did not mean we were to slow down. Dad was actively involved with Elmville minor hockey. I know he was a coach, and I believe he served on the board, possibly even the president at one point. He had involved with Timmy Tyke, Whipper Billy Watson, and went on to help something I called Little NHL, and it was confirmed that that actually existed at one point in time, I believe. By the time this is all completed, I was off to high school. To say I was a great student would honestly be a lie. I'm not even sure you could call me an average student. I did, though, on many occasions, hear people referring to me as being special. So, being special, I put together a special plan. My plan was to play every sport and activity that my teachers donated their time to. My hope was that if they liked me, they wouldn't fail me. Football, volleyball, basketball, gymnastics, badminton, and a few more other sports, along with a variety show, plus many musicals, were some of the activities. Can you imagine me in a musical? But whatever it took, I did it just so I could get a pass. I do recall Barb Brinkman by chance dropped in this week, and Barb's pretty special. She comes on a little bit later, but we got reminiscing about what happened during the play and how we got involved and how I got involved in the play. But what's really comical is there was one time in English class, Gary Navarra, huge fan of Landon Kelly, absolutely loved him. For some reason, I just didn't fit, maybe because I was special. But I got booted out of his class and sent out to the principal's office. So, on the way to the principal's office, and if you know the Elmville School, it's not that far, you have to be very creative with what you're going to say when you get in there on your report. So at that time, Mr. Roberts was the principal, and he came to the front, and I said I was sent to the office to see Mr. Roberts. He came up, and I said, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Navarra says I really need to practice for my solo. So in London, instead of going to English class, we practiced singing in the room. I'm not sure if you ever found out that I got kicked out of English class, but I do know that I did get to practice that solo for that hour. When it's all said and done, it was a good plan. I made it through the system. During that time, there was one special teacher, as I mentioned earlier, Barb Brinkman, who gave me a real opportunity. Barb allowed me to help coach the girls' junior volleyball team. This became a real passion for me. If I'm not mistaken, Angie Curtin, I think, was on the team, and possibly my sister Kelly. I learned that you can have a major impact on people's lives if you just believe in them a little more than they believe in themselves. Now it was time to head off to college. Apparently this is where special people go. I knew the plan worked in high school, so I stuck with the same plan when it was time to go to college. I was a convener of a mixed baseball league and did some umpiring at the same time. When I was there, I found a beautiful young lady that could run like the wind, catch a ball like no other, but could not hit herself out of a wet paper bag. I recall teasing her all season long, but was never brave enough to ask her this beautiful person out to date. From there, I went on to run another event, the Loyalist College in Belleville and Sir Sanford Fleming College in Peterborough, where I attended. It was a day full of games and activities and a little healthy competition between two schools to have some fun. As fate would have it, but who should appear but a beautiful lady from the baseball field. I took right up where I left off and continued to tease her throughout the event. The only difference is, by the time this event was over, I did manage to ask her on a date. It was on our second date that I asked her to marry me. She was not a quick yes. But I did manage to close the deal. And it's been the last 37 years that I spent with my bride, Debbie. As I said earlier, I wasn't a great student. Deb managed to get 2 diplomas while we attended college. I just came along for the ride, so again, thank you. You know, it's kind of funny, I often heard her call me special, too. It seems the only person that understands is me, my sister-in-law, Joanne. She works for special people all day long. After moving around and following our careers, we settled down in Brampton and called it home. Our kids came along, and soon after they were actively involved, Rainey with horses and Brooke with hockey. Rainey was passionate and led her to become a large animal veterinarian, and she continues to work, ride, and volunteer time for young riders and horses. That's to Rainey. Brooke followed her dream all the way to the NCAA Division I RIT Tigers, where he won 2 conference championships and met her boyfriend, Greg. Brooke continues to volunteer and coach and mentor young ladies in Barrie. Deborah and Brooke also are avid CrossFit people and help to coach fellow athletes at the gym and are now getting their certifications. In 2004, our family decided to move back home to Orr Lake. It was a big decision. My office was in Brampton. Brooke was committed to finishing her career with her friends playing hockey in Brampton. This meant huge sacrifices by my bride, about 70,000 kilometers a year in a car. It was a true reality, and thank you very much for that. Moving home meant Elmville was our community, and I wanted to get back here as well. I had little time to spare, but my brother-in-law Jeff Archer and sister Kelly both were active in Elmville minor hockey, one coaching and one managing. Jeff was kind enough to let me get involved, and I helped with some local coaching. We had some success, which was a great fun for the players, and I truly enjoyed my time at the bench together with Jeff. I believe some of those players are in the room. I saw Andrew, so he's in the room. Recently, I've been doing a little bit of coaching with Trish. Trish leads a great group of ladies to the baseball field every Tuesday. Throughout the summer, it's certainly been a lot of fun. This kind of takes us to where we are today. In my first year coaching in Brampton Association, was 20 years ago. I was asked to join the board that given year, and I've been there ever since. Since being special, to me, simply means you may not follow the same path others do, but you will get there all the same and hopefully make some impact along the way. I'm nearing the end of my time with the candidates and look forward to doing more involvement at home. While serving on the board, I've basically filled every position and made some lifelong friends. Some of them are in the room tonight, Peter Doot and Ded Dean. 2 of these people have shared the same vision along the way as I have, and certainly have made a difference in our sport. So thank you, gentlemen. Getting involved in giving back time, to me, you always need to look forward. Getting involved and giving time, to me, means you always need to look forward and not be afraid to change the way things have been done in the past. It's important that we respect the people who got us to where we are today, but we must move forward. Business and associations are like trees. If they're not growing, they're dying. So you need to continue to fuel it with new ideas and not be afraid. Starting in a small tournament called the 2 Nations College Prep Series 7 years ago with 20 teams, it has now become a major showcase for girl hockey players across the country. With 100 teams traveling across North America, it's turned into a huge event. We have people from California, Alaska, Chicago, New York, and certainly all across BC, Calgary, Quebec, and Northern Ontario. So it's turned into something special. But what makes me most proud is that tournament was started for a reason, to try and give girls in our club the opportunity to go on to play post-secondary education hockey or getting scholarships. And so far we've been very successful in that time frame, placed over 60 kids, so that's really good. Out of those 60 kids, 5 of those kids actually came from Springwater, so there's a tie back into home. On top of that, we did the scholarship banquet, which is another special event. It's one of those things that you'll never understand unless you're there. We honor all of our people that played for our associations, from our officials to the players. We have scholarship awards that are handed out, not necessarily for your hockey ability, but your attitude toward what hockey means to you and certainly your education. You have to see it to believe it, and I think Ted can comment on that. In the end, I'd like to say that people who coach have a profound impact on the youth today. Pete, I, and Ted all went to a conference recently where the speaker told us about a story about his buddy who was a very avid coach and was all about winning. And the story was relatively simple. He took him out to a golf course and three other people in the foursome were extremely good golfers. They were all maybe one handicaps, and his buddy that he brought along was not a bad golfer, but he shot probably in the mid-80s. So they get up to the first tee and they pull out all their clubs, and he says to his buddy, he says, "You don't need to hit here." And his buddy looks at him and goes, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Oh, we won't need you here. It's okay, don't worry about it. Leave your club in the back." So of course they go to the next hole and same thing happens again. "You don't need your clubs here. We're good. Our team's good. Just come along. Come for the ride. We're okay." By the time 9 holes is done, the guy's whistling out his ears. He's mad at heck. He's just losing it. His buddy goes, "What's wrong with you?" And he says, "All I want to do is play." And he said, "You know what? That's all the kids that you coach want to do too." So I remember that. I think it had a huge impact on Pete and I. We really changed the way that our association went from that event. Getting involved empowers young people to believe in themselves, gives them the trust and the confidence to push through their fears and find the courage that will set them free. Let them know that failure is the path to success and not the opposite of success. Thank you so much for this honor this evening. I'd like to accept this honor on behalf of all the Stoddart family and friends who gave back to the community over the years. Thank you very much.